My wife cheated on me for 8 years, and my mom supported her. I've now cut them both off. It's devastating to know my wife doesn't want to live with me anymore, and the worst part is she's giving no reason for it. My mother stands by her. Let me give some background. I'm 51, and I moved out of my hometown 13 years ago for work, leaving my wife, Mona, 48, and our 2 children in Texas. They're now 23 and 21, living independently in Houston. 13 years ago, during the Great Recession caused by the housing bubble, our business went bankrupt overnight. After my dad passed, I was running his construction company, but everything fell apart. I had the responsibility of my mother and 2 school-age kids. It was overwhelming in an unstable economy. After exhausting all our savings, I had to make a difficult decision to move out. I tried my luck in various Asian countries and eventually set up my business in Dubai. It was a tough phase, but the drive to provide a good life for my family kept me going. After leaving Texas, I wasn't home for more than a year until I launched my new venture. I visited every 5 to 6 months, wanting to bring my family to Dubai, but Mona and the kids didn't want to disrupt their schooling. Last year, my youngest daughter finished college and got a job with her sister's company before leaving home. I planned my vacation home to spend time with Mona and asked her to move with me now that the kids have left. She denied it, saying my mom would be alone. I suggested Mom could join us, but neither wanted to leave their hometown. They were hesitant about moving to a new country with such a different culture, and I understood that. During my last visit, I told Mona I was considering wrapping things up in Dubai and moving back to Texas. I thought she'd be excited, but her reaction was anything but happy. When I asked if she didn't want us living together, she said, "No, I'm happy for you. You've worked so hard to establish yourself there. Why leave it all?" She had a point. Shutting down something I'd sacrificed so much for wasn't easy. But after 13 years away, with the kids' education complete, I longed to return to my hometown, my comfort zone. I assured her I'd manage our finances as I had been and planned to set up something in Texas now that the economy had bounced back. Yet she remained unconvinced, which felt like a red flag, but I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. The next morning, my mom visited unexpectedly and told me not to make hasty decisions about moving back. I hadn't shared my plans with her or anyone else, so Mona must have told her. I was shocked. If Mona's resistance was a red flag, my mom's similar concerns made it even more troubling. I started to doubt myself, thinking maybe I was making the wrong decision, so I dropped the idea of moving back. But it troubled me that my wife didn't want to live with me. Her reasoning made sense, yet I was heartbroken by how emotionally distant she had become. This feeling consumed me to the point where, after returning home, I limited my calls and texts. I thought she would notice and ask about it, but she didn't seem to care. Days turned into weeks without meaningful communication. Now, our exchanges feel purely transactional. It was clear she no longer needed me. Last month, I confronted her, asking if she still loved me. She brushed it off, saying I was overthinking things and that she was just busy caring for our house and my mom, who has become fragile with age. I didn't know how to respond. It's unusual to see your wife bonding so well with her mother-in-law, and I was grateful for her kindness toward my mom. But my unease grew each day. I couldn't understand why she wouldn't want to be with me, especially since we have our own house and our major responsibilities are behind us. I assured her our lifestyle wouldn't change, so her reluctance made no sense. Yes, I started to wonder if she had found someone else. But how could I find out the truth? She hadn't shown any other red flags. She had been a great mother, raising the kids bravely in my absence, fulfilling her roles with grace. I sometimes feel guilty for suspecting her, but long-distance relationships complicate everything. Any advice on how to approach this? It's like trying to understand why people still use fax machines, outdated, complicated, and nobody really knows what's going on. I mean, 13 years is a long time to be away from home. It sounds like she's gotten used to life without you. It's become her new normal. Honestly, it wouldn't be unheard of for someone to seek intimacy outside a relationship when their husband isn't home more than half the time. If she was cheating, your absence doesn't excuse her actions. Update 1. Thanks for all the advice. I was glad to connect with others who shared stories of betrayal. It's been quite a lesson. Mona had been cheating on me, and my mother knew about it all along but didn't say a word. I don't know what I did to deserve this. Posting my story here helped me realize I couldn't let this slide. I planned a surprise trip home, not telling anyone, not even my mom. As I entered my house, I dreaded running into Mona with her affair partner. After reading so many stories of cheating wives, this scenario was on my mind, but thankfully, nothing like that happened. Mona was in the kitchen when I entered using the spare key. Yes, she was shocked to see me. I carried a bouquet to disguise my surprise. She was obviously surprised but also suspicious of my sudden appearance and bombarded me with questions. I told her I had light work that month and decided to come home. She forced a smile and pretended to be happy, but it looked very fake. I spent the next few weeks digging for the truth. I did everything a desperate person would do, not proud of some of it, but I felt I had no choice. I sneaked into her phone, eavesdropped on her conversations, planted a GPS on her car, and followed her around town. All this information came together in bits, giving me a clearer picture of what had been happening in my absence. It turned out she had been seeing someone for the last 8 years. The day I arrived home, she was super guarded about her phone. In the past, she used to clean up all evidence before I got there, but this time she didn't get the chance. I tried to snoop into her phone on the first day, but didn't get a chance. And when I finally accessed it, I found nothing. She must have cleaned it at the first opportunity. Her cheating became evident when I placed a GPS device in her car and followed her. Initially, I didn't suspect anything when I saw her enter a hardware store, but while waiting outside for her to return, I noticed the owner shutting the shop. I felt dizzy at that sight. A couple of hours later, I saw her leave, and the owner opened the shutter after her car left the driveway. I wanted to go inside to confront the affair partner, but stopped, fearing he might recognize me and ruin my plan. I decided to wait for her next visit so I could catch them in the act. She had a pattern of stepping out in the afternoons. Some days she'd visit my mom, and other days she'd go with friends or family. I followed her everywhere, waiting for her to meet the partner. Finally, yesterday, she went to see my mom. Normally, I would have backed off on those days, which is why it took so long to catch her. But yesterday, I stayed put and saw them leave the house together. I didn't think anything was off at first. I assumed they were just going shopping or something else, and I had no intention of following them. But something in me pushed me to do it anyway. When they pulled up at a hardware store, my heart sank. The affair partner stepped out, greeted both my mom and Mona. They both got out of the car, and right there, in front of my mom, he kissed Mona. They chatted for a few minutes, and then the affair partner hugged my mom before she got back in the car and drove off. Mona and the affair partner then entered his shop and he pulled down the shutter. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Betrayal from your wife is devastating, but from your own mother? It's beyond imagination. The truth hit me so hard that I had to walk down the street for a few minutes just to catch my breath. After a while, I went to the shop and knocked. There was no answer. I knocked harder, and eventually, the affair partner opened the door, startled. I demanded, "Where's Mona?" He froze. I shoved him aside and stormed into the shop. The lights were off, but I could hear faint sounds coming from the storeroom. Rushing in, I found Mona lying on her back, touching herself and moaning for him. It was only for a split second before the affair partner lunged at me, dragging me out of the storeroom as Mona screamed at the top of her lungs. The chaos of the moment made everything blur together, but I managed to break free, punching the affair partner in the process. By then, Mona had come out, hurriedly covering herself. I grabbed her by the neck, demanding, "How long has this been going on?" The affair partner tried to intervene, but Mona stopped him, sobbing and begging to discuss it at home. Realizing I could get in serious trouble for this fight, I stepped back, walked out, and drove away. I went to my mom's house and barged in, shouting, "You knew! You knew all along, and you betrayed me too." Mona had already called her, so Mom wasn't even surprised by my behavior. She just cried and reached for my hand, asking me to calm down. I broke down instead. By the time Mona arrived, seeing her face only made my anger worse. I demanded they tell me the truth. After a lot of pushing, Mona finally said, "It was so lonely when you left. It's not easy living alone for 13 years. You were so busy with work that you barely had time for me. Your calls were just a few minutes long, and they were more like check-ins about the kids or mom. What about me?" I asked her. "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated and then said, 7, maybe 8 years. Holy hell. All those years I had been working myself to the bone in a foreign country to give them a better life, and this is what they were doing? I couldn't believe it. I asked her, "If you felt so disconnected, why didn't you just divorce me?" She broke down again and said, "Because I love you. I never wanted to leave you. Being with him was just a way to cope with the loneliness. He means nothing to me." Nothing? After everything they had done, he meant nothing to her? I turned to my mom and asked, "What did I do to deserve this from you?" Through sobs, she said, "I know you hate me, but try to see it from my side. You left me here all alone. Mona was the one taking care of me, and I understand she has needs as a woman. So I had to support her." Support her? In betraying me? Once I had all the answers, I got up to leave. They both tried to stop me, following me outside, but I warned them not to. I told Mona not to come home, that I needed to be alone for a while. Then I drove back home, feeling sick to my stomach. I don't even know how to process this. Is the affair really my fault? Was I wrong for working in a foreign country, trying to provide for my family? It's gut-wrenching. You spend all those years away, sacrificing for your family, only to be replaced and betrayed by not just your wife, but your own mother. If Mona was feeling lonely, there should have been conversations, discussions about our living situation, or at least some honesty about how she was feeling. 7 or 8 years of this? That's not just cheating. That's building an entirely new life with another man. It's not my fault, but marriage takes 2 people. I truly thought I was doing the right thing by supporting my family financially. My mother, of all people, should have had my back. Instead, she chose to support Mona's actions. She should have spoken to me the moment she realized Mona was struggling without me at home. That's where my mom failed me, by staying silent and choosing to back Mona's betrayal instead of being honest with me. Update 2. Thank you all for your support. Here's what happened next. After spending a few days wallowing in my grief, I decided to drive to Houston to see my daughters. They're not kids anymore. They deserve to know the truth about what their mom was doing while I was out working hard for them. Part of this was also to protect myself. I planned to leave the country soon, and I knew Mona might try to use that to manipulate our daughters. They were devastated when I told them the truth. My eldest daughter admitted that she had suspected something was going on between Mona and my mom. She even mentioned that she thought my mom might be seeing a widower who lived a couple of blocks away. Frankly, that's not my concern. My dad passed away decades ago, and if my mom wants to be with someone, that's her choice. But the fact that she supported Mona through all of this? That's a problem for me. The next day, I packed up my things and left. Mona and my mom had been calling me constantly since then. I think when they came home to find the house empty, reality finally hit them. I basically abandoned them. For the first month, their calls and texts were filled with apologies, pleas, and begging me to come back. But after a while, their concern shifted to money. I hadn't blocked them intentionally because I wanted to see them squirm without access to funds. I froze my bank accounts and credit cards, and that's when they really started losing it. Neither of them had any income. Mom's estate pension wasn't enough to support the lifestyle they had grown used to. Now they're desperately trying everything to get a response from me, but I've ghosted them completely. Mom has resorted to emotional blackmail, saying that Dad would be heartbroken to see me leave her alone in her old age. But none of their pleas matter to me anymore. They betrayed me in the worst way possible. I never suspected Mona of anything. I didn't check her phone like some people in long-distance relationships do. I always respected her privacy. More than Mona, I feel betrayed by my mom. Even when I had doubts about Mona, seeing how close she was with my mom reassured me. But in return, I was cheated on by both of them. Their excuse for Mona's affair was pathetic. She was lonely, so she decided to sleep with someone else? Really? She was living in our home, surrounded by our kids, friends, and family. If anyone was truly lonely, it was me, completely alone in a foreign country with no family or friends. I could have easily found someone to share my bed too, but I didn't. My focus was always on my family's well-being. Fooling around wasn't even on my mind. I was working hard, saving every penny so I could come back home as soon as possible. When none of their attempts to reach me worked, they turned to my daughters for help. Mona didn't know I had already, told the girls the truth, and she did exactly what I expected. She badmouthed me, claiming that I had cut them off financially. She even accused me of having an affair in the Gulf or possibly marrying someone there. After hearing all her lies, my daughters stood up to her and told her they already knew the truth about her affair. They sent her away that day, but Mona has since been trying to get in touch with my younger daughter, asking for help. The younger one is closer to Mona, and Mona is using her innocence to try and get money from her. However, I'm not going to ask my daughter to stop helping her mom. She's an adult and can make her own decisions. My mom has also been reaching out to my daughter for financial help. As for me, I'm still struggling to move on from the betrayal. I haven't even considered divorce yet. It would just be a financial burden I don't need. Divorce would benefit Mona, both financially and personally, especially if she wants to marry the affair partner. But I'm not going to make it easy for her. She's already living in my house, and that's the most she's going to get from me. Since I'm out of the country, it doesn't really matter if we're divorced or not. I have no accountability in this situation. I'm focusing on moving forward with my life. I'll update if anything new happens. Update 3. Here's what happened next. After I cut them off financially, they exhausted all the resources they had. My older daughter refused to help them, but my younger daughter was manipulated into doing so. She's just started her first job, earning very little, barely enough to cover her own basic needs. Despite that, she saved some of her money to help her mom, which actually made me proud of her. Eventually, though, she got tired of supporting Mona. She suggested that Mona get a job to sustain herself, but Mona took her for granted, claiming it was her daughter's responsibility to take care of her in her time of need. My younger daughter did what she could with her limited income, but when it became too much, she finally cut Mona off. Mona can't marry the affair partner since she's still married to me, so she's been pushing me for a divorce. She's tried threatening me with all sorts of legal consequences, but honestly, I don't care. I'm out of the country, and I don't think she has the knowledge or resources to sue me in a cross-border situation. Even if she tried, there's no law here that punishes a man for abandoning his cheating wife. So, good luck to her with those legal threats. As for Mona, she's now working at the affair partner's shop. I don't know what she's getting in return for her services, whether it's money or something else. The affair partner doesn't have a proper home. He lives in a camper and has an ailing father to take care of. He's not financially strong enough to support Princess Mona, so I doubt things are going as smoothly as she hoped. As for my mom, I sometimes feel bad for cutting her off so harshly and even consider helping her in the future. She does receive a pension, which should be enough for her to get by. She brought this on herself. Though she has apologized for what she did, it didn't feel sincere. I might reconcile with her someday, but not right now. So I'll wait for the day when my mom genuinely repents for her mistakes, when my anger fades, and maybe when my love for her outweighs my emotions. Some of you have advised me to move on and enjoy Dubai's vibrant lifestyle. Funny enough, it's not as glamorous as it seems on social media. That royal, mesmerizing lifestyle you see, it requires a lot of money, and I'm not in a place for that right now. The laws regarding women here are also pretty strict, and honestly, I'm not interested in using anyone to get over my grief. However, I have been traveling a lot since then. So far, I've been to China and Bali, and I've got a long list of other Asian countries and cultures I plan to explore. I'll start a new thread soon to share those travel experiences. Thanks for all the love and support.